Hello, everybody, and welcome to another SoCal first-time buyer market update. My name is Stephen Meade. I'm your host here with Domicile Real Estate, located here in Long Beach. So we service Orange and Los Angeles counties. This is our market update just for first-time home buyers. And we're going to talk a little bit about resisting change. And I think a lot of times as human beings, we are almost pre-programmed to want the status quo, to resist change. Unfortunately, the housing market is always changing, and that can be anything from getting tighter, getting looser, but I'm also talking about the bigger changes. And one of the things we're noticing that a lot of first-time home buyers do is they think about the way the housing market was, and not just was last year or 2 years ago, but the way the housing market was maybe 10 years ago. And 20 years ago, and saying, why can't I have the same market that people had 10 or 20 years ago? And the reality is that is really a pretty fruitless exercise. For example, you can dream about those homes that were, had ocean views in Dana Point that were available for $500,000 all day long, but that's not going to make them come back. And I think a lot of times people allow comparison to be the thief of joy, and this shows up as not just a healthy fear of what's risky, but a fear of changing at all. And they don't like the changes and they want to keep things the same, but that's not possible. So if you are a first time or an entry level buyer watching this, I'd imagine at some point or another, you have felt this way, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not. And by the way, your feelings aren't alone. I remember, when I bought my first home, I looked back to the people who bought 10 years before and thought, why can't I get what they get, right? And the fact is, what things are worth and these things change. Also, areas change. 20, 30 years ago, the San Fernando Valley was, out there. Today, that's right in the heart of Los Angeles to a lot of people. So things change. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started. We've got some market statistics for you. I'm excited to share those. We're going to go ahead and load those up here. So let's see. Gosh, these are not showing up. Let me see what I can do here to get that to show up. Are you literally seeing a blank screen there? So, okay. Let me go ahead and see if I can get that worked up. I know we are not seeing that. So I think I'm going to have that ready for you here in just a second. Give me a moment. And I think we're going to try that again. So let's go ahead and try it again. There we go. Now we've got some charts for you. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at is what's going on with prices. And we've got some mixed news for you, depending on whether you are looking at entry-level single-family homes or entry-level condos. As we see this push to affordability, we're seeing these condo numbers actually spike a little bit in the last 2 weeks, whereas our single-family home numbers have gone down. Remember, this is reflective of where prices were 4 to 6 weeks ago, not necessarily where prices are now. If we continue on to our payment, though, we've got a little bit of good news on that entry-level single-family home front. We have dropped below $6,000. So the reality is we are not very far off where we were a year ago. A year ago, we were at $5,890. This year, we are at $5,951. So I'm excited to see that number ease just a little bit. Our condo number, however, is up. And what does that tell us when we see that? It means that people really want to get in, even at more entry-level price points, and that new entry level is pushing up a little bit. If we look at what income is required, you can see about $145,000 for entry-level single-family home and $116,000 for entry-level condo. Definitely makes you wonder, are you better off splitting a house with somebody rather than trying to buy a condo on your own? An interesting discussion. We've actually helped many clients make that decision, if that's you. And then if we look at our absorption rate, what does this tell us, right? We're seeing both a little bit of an influx of listings, and we're also seeing a decline in those purchases as a result of some of the interest rate activity. However, are these easy numbers? No, they are not. Still being at 79% and 74% respectively for our single family home and entry level condo, these are still competitive markets for buyers. And I think you'll find, especially the farther under $1 million you are, the more competitive that market is. If we look at our total inventory, we did see that it has gone up a little bit. But unfortunately, especially if you look here versus our entry-level single-family home, I mean, look, we're below 1,500 units. And last year, we were almost at 2,500 units available at this point in time. I mean, that's a huge, huge reduction in available inventory. That is why you are seeing prices are not moving a whole lot. And I think if you're one of those people waiting, for some kind of crash in the streets, it's just not likely to happen. We just don't have the right ingredients to produce that level of a crash. If you're looking at our 14-day still active, that is a little bit of good news. It says the markets are being a little less competitive, but not as less competitive as they were all through last year. So it's a little bit better than 2 weeks ago, but not really a whole lot better than it's been for the year for most of us. Now, if we look at our relative supply of homes, and what I like about this is this isn't just the number of homes available, but it's the number of weeks of homes available. Again, we are still with tighter inventory than last year, or rather about the same for our entry-level condo, and we are down a little bit on our entry-level single-family home. But I mean, these are not huge amounts of inventory. We had a lot more kind of through the summer of last year. So, what's the overall message, right? What are we talking about here? I think, I'm of the belief that I have yet to have clients who really wish they would have waited an appreciable amount of time to buy a home. Almost every single one of them who bought said we wish we had done it sooner. And, homeownership is a long-term game. This is not a short-term proposition. We're talking about the trajectory of your finances over the next 10, 20 years. We're not just talking about what happens in the next year, the next 2 years, which obviously I wish I could predict that. But if you talk to anybody who says they can predict that, I promise you they do not know, because if they knew, they would not be telling you. Anyhow, that's all I've got for you this week. We're seeing a little bit more inventory. Again, the market's a little less competitive. So maybe if you're a person who's kind of been poking in the market, now might be a good time to kind of go all out. It's a relative low point, but to be honest, it's not that much less competitive than it's been. It's not suddenly there are tons of deals, and it's still more competitive than it was last year. We're just not seeing the market change necessarily in the way that people want. I think people are expecting some kind of dramatic change in the market. We're just not seeing that, or seeing even signs of that coming to fruition. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. Questions, comments, we love them. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Obviously, if you are a first-time home buyer, or if you're somebody who would like to be a first-time home buyer, it's never too early to chat. We would love to talk with you. Definitely reach out to us if you are in the Los Angeles or Orange County areas. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again real soon.